Welcome to the Hospitality Maverick podcast with me, Michael Tinkser. In today's podcast, I'm very excited to be joined by two hospitality mavericks, Dawn and Alun Sperring, husband and wife founders of the Chilli Pickle, an Indian restaurant group from Brighton. We sat down to talk with Dawn and Alun about leadership, the challenge around expanding, and the power of people, and much more. You are in for a treat, so grab your headphones, coffee, or whatever you need and enjoy. Welcome, Dawn and Alun, to the Hospitality Maverick podcast, and I'm very excited to have two local Brighton Mavericks on the podcast today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Many people maybe don't know out there in the big hospitality world who you are yet, but you have about more than 10 years behind you here in Brighton. Just opened your second location Guilford. Mm-hmm. And we're going to come back to that. And you won a number of awards. You won an award last week. I saw in London the Casual Dining Awards, Independent Restaurant under 5 units. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
First, it would be great for people that don't know who you are. You're very known down here, to actually understand what is your story. How did you come up with the Chilli Pickle? How did two English people come up with an Indian restaurant concept?
Always, when I started out, always wanted to be a chef. Many years ago, went to Brighton Technical College, City and Guilds, a common story. And then just had that inkling and wanderlust to travel the world. And then over a period of 22 years, I did that. Ended up working in 8 countries, 4 continents. Kind of started very classical, sort of Austria, Germany, Switzerland, really old school 5-star deluxe hotels. The more senior the chef, the taller the hat. Very regimented, large brigades. You work from 3rd commis, 2nd commis, 1st commis, and if within 5 years you've hit chef de partie, you'd be very proud. But for me as a young man, it instilled sort of wonderful discipline and I guess, a certain work ethic and philosophies that have put me in good stead ever since. With that wanderlust and the opportunity, I guess the more experience and better I got, the more opportunity to go further afield, with more exotic countries. And then the passion grew into, I guess, the cuisine of the Southern Hemisphere. Along that road, me and Dawn met in London in New Cross in a nightclub.
Yeah, it's not quite so glamorous sounding.
Then we've kind of shared the journey ever since. We kept travelling together. We worked in Dubai and Bermuda, but at the end of it, after 22 years, that idea to come back home and share our passion with our firstborn and open up a restaurant that we both really love.
Yeah, my background's quite different to Alan's. I used to work for the ambulance service. An ambulance technician, not hospitality. I'd had hospitality experience when I was a student, when I was at uni and things, so I'd had experience in that respect, but still always very people facing, involved in community and enjoying any kind of job that wasn't office based. I liked the kind of flying by the seat of your pants, as they say, so for me it was a very natural thing to move into the front of house side of things, for Alan to be in the kitchen, for me to be at the front, and it worked really well, didn't it? So when I met Alan, it wasn't, hey, come and open a restaurant with me. We met in New Cross in South East London and worked for the ambulance service, and instead Alan said, hey, come and live with me in Bermuda. So Woolwich or Bermuda, it's kind of so it was quite a romantic start. We only had a couple of dates. And then Alan went to start the job in Bermuda and I went and followed him. Mum hadn't even met him. It's quite whirlwind, wasn't it? 17, 18 years down the line now. Amazing. 2 restaurants, 2 kids later. We moved to Dubai, so we both enjoyed the travel. And it was that kind of point where we'd reached where we'd just had our first child. And it's, if we were ever going to do this, now's probably the time, whilst the kids are going to be too young to realise how much mum and dad are working. We knew how all absorbing it was. We were quite realistic in certain aspects. Yeah, we just wanted to come home. So it all kind of was born with a few conversations in Dubai and giving it a shot. We travelled India and we were very passionate about Indian cuisine. And then Chilli Pickle started.
So when you came back to Brighton, and we're sitting in the second venue in Brighton today in Jubilee Street, how did you come up with it? Besides, you said you travel a lot in India and you were passionate about Indian food. How did you come up with the concept here?
When you say concept, it wasn't that clean cut. I definitely think the hospitality industry has moved forward since, when we first started talking about Chilli Pickle, the first early talks about it, you're probably touching on sort of 12, 13 years ago, really, because we came back to UK. It took us a year to find a site. And we're coming into our 11th year in the summer. It was more about making a restaurant that we would love to go to ourselves. And then I think with regards to the cuisine being Indian, for Alan, especially as a passionate chef, It was about trying to be true to a cuisine that we thought that we could really back, really.
I think you always wanted to have something that's quite rustic and kind of almost like a canteen in India, but still refined. So real flamboyant food, like so much of Indian cuisine is almost sort of warts and all in your face. There's so much detail behind it. I mean, and the flavour impacts. I mean, if ever I was going to be involved in any cuisine, it would have always been that kind of southern hemisphere, sort of big, bold flavours, really exciting, in your face ingredients, which is nothing against, sort of that classic European, but it's just, my preference and always steered towards that side of cuisine. The fact that it's Indian, there was a few sort of instances along the way for me. I did a bit of a stint with the Cinnamon Club before an expat position, so spent some time with Vivek, and that really kind of sparked passion directly to Indian cuisine. I had loads of exposure when I worked for Jumeirah in Dubai. That's a brilliant resort I worked, is the opening of Madinat. Initially I went there as exec chef of a Moroccan restaurant. So been involved in all sorts of cuisines, and to be honest, that was also a learning curve for me, because it was a very thoroughbred Moroccan Arabic kitchen, and I kind of put my interpretation on the food and probably just stamped my template a little bit too strongly, and what I churned was something that the expats loved, but the locals questioned its authenticity. And then having the chili pickle now, it's I've learned a lot from that, in the sense of when to push the boundaries, when to accept this should only be tweaked and tuned, and when to leave stuff completely alone. But as I say, working in a lot of countries, you kind of get this confidence of working with different cuisines. But for us, opening the Chili Pickle, always wanted it to be something very different, and a white couple. And I guess, even specifically a white chef owning an Indian restaurant was kind of unheard of then. I know there's people in the industry that wrote about Indian cuisine, Peter Chapman and, other folk, but actually having a stand-up restaurant, it's kind of unheard of. So that was a sort of point from the outset. And then the style of restaurants, there was the fine dining London front, the Cinnamon Club or the Tamarins or the Zykas and all of this. And then there's, I guess, the real sort of North Indian kebab factory kind of Tayyab style in East London. And then it was the truly loved Bengali restaurant template we all know and we all grew up with. But outside of that, and especially outside of London, I think what we planned to do was something quite new. And I think the thing that we knew with Brighton has always been quite eclectic, that there was an opportunity for us to offer something different and to potentially be accepted. So that was kind of it, really. I mean, the template was great regional food, maybe some quirky plays on the Anglo-Indian favourites, your madrassis, your vindaloo, a really nice environment, some great beers. I mean, craft beers was not a buzzword then, definitely not. But because of all my time in Bavaria and North Europe, I had a great love of wheat beers and, good strong Belgian beers and that opportunity that you can create a tasting menu from beers and also good wine as well, that it didn't have to be just Cobra, so the beverage side, the beers, the wines, the loose teas that we'd sourced from Darjeeling, and we were just so excited about so many elements that we could bring to the Chili Pickle from the outset that we thought we'd make a real point of difference.
I think also there was so much of that influence was just completely down to what we liked, what we enjoyed. A key word that we always threw around was accessible. We wanted the type of restaurant that everyone would feel comfortable in. You've got your 21st birthday party celebration in one corner, and then you've got someone else with all their shopping bags and their jeans and trainers that have just happened across us and given it a shot. And we just wanted that buzz of enjoyment. We wanted the environment to feel relaxed and vibrant and colourful like India is. Like Alan said, the beers was because of his experience. We had a Meantime Brewery beers because I'm from down the road from Greenwich. The food was everything that we both loved and enjoyed. The teas was what we loved and enjoyed. So it wasn't that kind of sitting around the table and thinking what would people necessarily be looking for.
No, we didn't. So it wasn't a contrived, what was going to be very saleable. It was a layer of what was inside us, our passion, our history, and we've tried to put that together in one small restaurant.
And I think that's what makes things work. The customers can see through a concept. For us, it was us on our hands and knees sanding the woodwork, and my dad did all of the painting on the first time. I mean, it was a real labour of love, wasn't it? And we knew that it was going to take a lot from us. So we knew that we had to be, if we were going to work 24/7 in our restaurant, it had to be what we loved. So I hope that shined through.
You are been on the road for 10 years, and there's been a bit like a revival around casual dining Indian concept. We have Dishu, we have Mowgli, we have other concepts coming now, and you as well has also just opened your second site, as you mentioned, in Guilford. So do you think that there's a revival around Indian food again? Has always been there, or?
I think it's always been there. I don't know if it's a revival, as maybe just a little bit of a shake-up. Maybe, and realising that it could work as a good casual dining concept. I think that's one of the things that's become quite obvious, that it works, and the need for it and the want for it and the love for Indian food is there in England especially.
Everybody in the UK loves Indian food. It's part of who we are. So why wouldn't it be? And I think with the general person on the street, their knowledge of through social media and TV and programs is so much more complex now, and you know they're looking for the next experience. You know, so not really interested in that kind of standard cookie cutter. This is day in day out. They're going to get the same thing. They'd rather go out and that opportunity to try something new and fresh. And I think for us, the beauty of India as a whole and as a passionate chef is there's always opportunity to give something new, and I'm just learning all the time. I mean, it's such a vast land of different climates and lands and produce. There's just so many different styles of cuisine, so it was always from the outset about regional Indian cuisine, and the street food is part of that mix. So we never would have pegged ourselves as a street food restaurant or a curry house or whatever, but just, I guess, you know, an Indian restaurant that embraces India as a whole, I guess.
It would be a shame not to. I think it's great that we're able to touch all the corners of the country.
Some people say that's a long time, 10 years to get to take the next step, or deciding on number 2. And maybe, was that something you thought about a long time?
Well, I think, you know, in many ways, you know, we're probably quite green in the business world. 2 restaurateurs that have been kind of pure restaurateurs in the simplest sense of, you know, food, hospitality, ambience and all of that. And we kind of almost thought, well, we keep doing a good thing and someone will pop round one day and slap a suitcase full of cash on the table and, you know, this would do great all over the world. And we have learned a lot of slow lessons over the years, and it is hard and it is frustrating, and you do feel, you know, like a salmon swimming north. You know, so sometimes, but I think from all that we've learned, it has made us incredibly resilient and strong, and I think, you know, we've got strong roots to who we are. So for us to grow now, there's no reason why we can't grow at a good rate.
And also that want of kind of learning to walk before you run kind of thing. You know, we've always been very, very conscious of not doing something that's going to be detrimental to what we've built. I mean, this is me and Alan. We've sacrificed a lot for this, you know, as much as, you know, not getting the violins out, but we have sacrificed a lot for this place. And so for us to make any knee-jerk reaction decisions would be heartbreaking if it then fell down because it was too soon. It was completely us for a long time. Financially, we didn't have the means to move forward. Yeah, we moved from a small site to here at Jubilee Street, then we started the takeaway, then I got pregnant, so we had our second child. And then, finding the right people to work with as well was a long process for us. And again, because of wanting to make sure that we felt like we had the right people around us.
Is there any ambitions now you've done number 2? I know it's still early days and it takes time to adjust just as a 100% increase of your business size. Yeah. Is there any plans of more or are you again adjusting and finding your feet on that journey?
We're definitely adjusting, but that's us wanting to make sure we get it right and that we feel really happy with Guilford. But yeah, 100% there's plans to want to move forward and grow a bit more, right? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, the second site has been a massive challenge. You know, when we decided to, be outside of Brighton, that we wanted a demographic that was around about an hour away. We didn't want to hit London yet, and I guess we sort of did the market towns, and Guilford for us seemed to tick a lot of the boxes. But actually having the second site is been brilliant. It's a beautiful site, and it really is a perfect template for what Chilli Pickle is. I think one of the biggest challenges is obviously finding the right management team. That has been for us quite a challenge. We didn't hit the right people initially. initially, and we're kind of there now. It takes time, and we were always given a heads up that this is often the case when you go to your next site, and because, you know, as the owner operator, where you're so used to being there and, you know, all encompassing all the time, and then sort of giving it up, that you've got to have that full trust, and, you know, that comes over a period of time. So I've kind of based myself loads in the second site, sort of in the early days now, and we've been 6 months, and I think now we've found some roots there. You know, we're starting to build nice local reputation. You know, that consistency is honing in, and then starting to get that philosophy is becoming more natural in the second site. So, you know, now feeling the real necessity for to be back in base, and you know, kind of hone the core to another level. And I think that's the only way then we can step to the third one, is that now the centre just needs to become that much stronger.
They say the second is the hardest, and it certainly is, and I think part of that is because you do almost get used to what you've got with your first. It's like having children. You kind of forget how bad labour really is. Then you go through it again and go, oh yeah, that really hurt. You know, and it's part of that. And also we're much stronger in who we are and what our concept is now. You know, we have got a brand. We knew how important it was to get that. And, you know, the strength of brand gives confidence to the customers. You know, we've got to look like we're organised. So the training of the front of house staff deemed much harder than we anticipated. You know, we had our training packs and information, but actually it was a lot more. We needed to be more involved with maybe getting some of the guys from Brighton to explain the ethos, because when in Brighton someone leaves and you replace them with someone new, it's just one person. You can really put a lot of energy and time into that person. When you're starting with a whole new team, you can train them as much as you want, but until you've got customers in front of them, they're not overly prepared for it. And so when you've got a whole brand new team, it's like wowzers, it's quite a shock to the system when you first start getting customers coming through the door. We've definitely learned a lot, and there's things that we would do slightly differently now, just because we can imagine a smoother, more cleaner way to do certain things. And again, it is just me and Alan, you know, we're kind of, you know, you do spread yourself a little bit too thin sometimes, and I think if we do a third, it would definitely be much smoother. I hope so anyway.
Definitely something about that when you're telling there that I can reflect on my own journey as well. When you open very fast, at some point it's going to go fast, it always does, and it's the people factor when you start scaling that, and your ability to be present in the same way as you were before. And it's not just mentally, but it's also physically be there, because they're used to see you. You don't have to say anything, sometimes you just have the visibility of the leader. So yeah, that's very understandable. That's a challenge. So you feel like many others when they go on this journey as well, the people factor is the challenge, the massive challenge, and then the consistency of product, of course, but that's in a way you can fix that with the right people.
But the people are your voice, right? They're the ones that are talking to your customers. They're the ones that talk to their friends and people they meet when they're down the pub and they say, where do you work? And it's the Chilli Pickle. Yeah. It's like, oh wow, I love that place. You are at the mercy of your team, really. So you've got to make sure that you are behind them and you instill the right ethos, and that you are a positive, good employer. And you know, and it's really, really important. And we love that part of it as well. I mean, we love, one of the beauties of hospitality is the eclectic mix of people that you come across is amazing, and the people that I'm friends with now and people that are in our lives would never have happened if we weren't involved in hospitality and had a restaurant.
Philosophy's always been about teaching and training and nurturing. I mean, going back to Dubai, I had a role, it's sort of part of the Moroccan restaurant, and then they moved me on into kind of a roaming role within the resort, and I would go into different kitchens and help the chefs, you know, with the menus or presentation or tastings, and also I started up a school for the sort of different skill sets for the young chefs, whether that be cutting of vegetables or classic sauces or soups. You know, I think for me, and probably Dawn now, that we've got the opportunity as we grow to almost sort of kick back into what we're really good at, you know, kind of honing again of, you know, that real passion for the food, and trying to relay that passion to the younger or the less experienced chefs, and then to come back here now, I can see all of that growing. I mean, I'm really excited at the opportunity. You know, going back to when we first started the Chilli Pickle, you know, I've always had an immigration license that allows you to bring from overseas, whether that be India, Dubai or wherever. I think the last 6 years there's been
it's longer than that now, I think. Yeah.
As far as the takeaway clause, so that's allowed you're not able to bring in unless there's, you know, quite complicated small details, very high salaries. So, you know, initially I had almost speciality Indian chefs in every role. Normally always the tandoor chefs were from Rajasthan, which they're incredibly famous for. I always had speciality South Indian chefs. I even had Indian sweet chefs, halwaya chefs. So it was kind of a master in each section. Now that's kind of broken down now to what is a very European kitchen we have, especially being outside of London. But my skills have allowed me to sort of morph into these sort of restricted times. And although I would love the opportunity to bring from overseas, from India again, because I think it's quite important to keep that cycle, of talent, and also the current talent that are in the UK keeps people on their toes, rather than kind of that stagnation of more expectations and less output. We've got wonderful young people from whether it be from North Europe or Eastern Europe or England that have come through the ranks and are able to do, sort of great Indian skilled, as bread chef or tandoor chef to a standard that we're incredibly happy about, that the customer would not recognise. That's kind of, I guess, testament to surviving and being able to flourish with the certain restrictions around you.
But hopefully also that enjoyment of what we do and that Alan's passion bleeds through the ranks so that people are more inclined to stay in the kitchen and work with us. I mean, we like to promote from within. I think it's really important if you can help people get onto the career path, especially. And Alan's skills at teaching and helping people move forward is brilliant, and we never say no to someone that shows interest in wanting to work in the kitchen. I think it's a great workplace. I think we've really helped to flourish in that respect as well, haven't we? Which is exciting. We love it.
And it was also a fight as well to find that transition in the early days where it was still predominantly South Asian chefs in the kitchen, that kind of, that people don't understand the real taste if they're not from a certain area. For me, from being from the outside, this was quite frustrating, and no disrespect whatsoever, because there's definitely a purity of ability that can really shine through at the highest level. But at the end of the day, being a chef, it is a craft, and a craft can be taught and it can be learned, and if there is a will, is very doable from both sides. But there needs to be a level of passion and hunger from both sides, and I think we try to put that across.
Where do you get your inspiration from? Do you still travel a lot in India to continue innovating the concept? Because I guess the customers, even though they love their regular curry, they also want to see new stuff on the menu.
Completely, yeah. No, we try to go to India every year. We've not managed it this year, but that's opening another restaurant that's kind of put a little bit of hold on that, haven't it? We go India every year, take the kids. We always try and go somewhere different. The itinerary is usually led by what food we want to eat. And 100%, we need to eat when we're there. We like to reconnect with the country and just embrace the whole cultural side of being there. But
whenever we come back, we're always fired, full of passion and hunger. Can't wait to get stuck into the menu and make some changes. I mean, I always go out to India with an empty suitcase, and I always fill it with kind of local cookbooks. And I've got well over 500-600 Indian cookbooks home, and loads of obscure ones. And that's another passion for me. I just sit at home, kitchen table, pull out 20-25 books and just sit in the afternoon and just flick through and just brainstorm a little bit, and just ideas each time, and kind of almost go back to that every month or so. I just get into that mode, and there's so much opportunity to learn. I mean, one is obviously the chefs that have come through the ranks, always trying to pull from themselves what they cook at home, what they're passionate about, obviously the industriousness of books and everything. And then when we do go to India, we will pick a place that is famous for a certain type of cuisine or whatever, and then we will search out the very best opportunity of that cuisine, whether it be on the streets or at the highest level in the most sort of the regal of hotels. You can get the very best from both sides in India, and we do so again and again.
When we go to India, we will go and eat in a nice fine dining restaurant, and then for lunch we're going and having some street food, and we're trying to tick all the boxes of different ranges of food that we can have when we're out there.
I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be fine dining in the sense of the plate presentation, but for example, ITC Dumpak in Delhi, is a very famous, very, very sort of opulent hotel, you know, very, very, very pricey. But the Mughalai, you know, the North Indian cuisine is so good, you know, the very best of ingredients, you know, the best chefs producing it, and the bread and the kebabs and everything, absolutely sublime. And then we will go to the old back streets, the alleyways of old Delhi, and we will have a, you know, kebab at Kareem's, you know, and pay 100th of the price and also be blown away. But I think, you know, too many things can become cliches, and for people to say, oh, all the best food in India is in the streets. Yes, some of it is, but some of the worst is as well. And, you know, the same with, you know, some of the best hotel food or restaurant food that you can get
which is the same as anywhere in the world, you know. It's trying to touch base with people, and, you know, we've got some contacts out there, so we've eaten in people's own family homes and stuff. And when we arrive, one of the first things we do is we check in, is we give our cards and say, check out our website, see what we're about, where do you want us to eat, you know. And, you know, we'll do things like sit in a car for 4 hours to go to a local, what's classed as the nearest toddy shop, so that we can experience something. And we love it as well, because for people that are working in the hotel, they love sending us to these wild and wonderful places, and then we'll come back and like, what do you think, did you enjoy it? Because, you know, we go to non-tourist areas as well, and the kids are very used to being plonked in the back of a car to travel for 3 hours for lunch, and they just get on with it, and they love coming with us to India as well now, don't they? It's great fun.
There's no doubt about it. It's under the skin.
Oh,
your concept. I can hear that.
Yeah.
It's very. It's almost movement sitting listening to it. So now you become part of a multi-unit operator, with 2 and more in the pipeline. How are you looking now on the industry? Because often when you go from that, running that one restaurant, and you talk to some of the struggles about growing a business and the people side, the consistency. How do you see the industry where you are now? Because it is you can say, challenging time for the industry, and there's bad news almost, you know, every week about, especially about the more established concept and change.
Sure.
Oh, it's exceptionally hard.
And it was kind of that all sort of come to a head almost when we sort of put the signature on the second site, you know, and who knows how things happen in life. You just cannot control, can you? You know, we went into Guilford, and then immediately a bunch of places closed around us. It wasn't tumbleweeds have escaped from New York, but it did have a little bit of a...
Yeah, we're next door to a Maplin's that shut down. It was opposite to Cow, you know, and I think we was only in for like 2 weeks, and then that's when Cow went. But
we've always been quite brave. I mean, Meeting House Lane, where we first started, previous few operators failed there. Yeah, we started at the beginnings of the recession in August 2008. So that's kind of all we knew from the early days. You know, coming here, this site had failed previously twice through London operators. It's a beast of a restaurant if you can compare it to, you know, the Meeting House Lane Little Bistro. But we tackled that, and, you know, maybe there is an element of our head that's sort of the brain's blocked off of fear of a certain thing. But we did. So.
I think you know, we're not gung ho to the point that we just will do anything, you know. I think a big thing is we really truly believe in the product. Because of that, we, you know, it's us, and it's like you said, it is from the heart. And I know that sounds like a bit of a cliche, and, you know, it's a bit, but this is who we are. And so the last previous sites we've had have always been failed sites, and it still worked. There's so much of that we know that the product will shine through. You know, it was another big site that we moved to, Guilford, but it's exceptionally tough. It's a really hard industry to make money in, and I think when someone that's not involved in the industry will come in, you know, if you come into the Chilli Pickle on a Saturday night and it's absolutely splitting at the seams and every table is full, and, you know, everyone was like, wow, they must be queening it in, this is amazing. But the rent is big, the rates is big, you know, labour costs are, you know, it's quite a labour intensive food that we do, so we're not pizza. There's lots of different elements, you know, the electricity companies, as soon as you're a business, to have your rubbish taken away, all of this. So when you get down and you break it down, you get to the very, very bottom line, there's never really that much left, and then suddenly the dishwasher will pack up, so you'll have to go, you know. So there's always challenges being thrown your way, and I think it is quite difficult. I think the consumer is changing. They're becoming much more demanding, and rightly so, in what they expect from you. I think that's why casual dining is moving forward. Customers expect more from their casual dining. It's not either bog standard, throw the food in front of you, or you're paying through the nose for a real top dollar kind of place. And I think that's right. So I think there's a lot of the larger operators that are probably trying to bring it back in again and rethinking it a little bit and focusing on the sites that are working and putting more energy into those. It's not about how many sites you've got now. I think it is changing a little bit in that respect. And also there's much more offerings out there. You've got to be good, because otherwise you just walk 30 seconds down the road and you've got something else to choose from. So you've got to stand out and you've got to have that point of difference and show that you care about what you're doing, and the customer wants to feel respected, and they should do. They're paying their hard-earned cash. Everyone's struggling at the moment. So if someone is working Monday to Friday 9 to 5 and working really hard, if they're going to spend any of that money in my restaurant, I want them to feel that I am appreciative of the fact that they've given me a shot and that they want to spend their money at my restaurant, and I want them to come back and feel, maybe we're not the cheapest option if you're going to have Indian food, but I hope that when people leave, they feel that every penny that was spent was worth it.
So where do you think the industry is going to go now? There's always going to be a restaurant industry. My mom always said there's always going to be work for the restaurateur and the undertaker.
Yeah.
No matter, you're going to eat and
For
you're going
sure.
to die.
I think probably one of the biggest challenges is going to be in labour, and how you can manage that. Definitely, I've had to change as a chef and a person, how I manage things, and believe that I have to change all the more, and the kind of the philosophy that we need to be much more motivators, nurturers, fathers, rather than disciplinarians, and to make a really sort of a fun, enjoyable place for people to work. If you've got a staff member for a year now, it's a nice period of time. So that when you've got well over 100 staff is very, very costly to the business. So you really want to be able to keep your staff and for your staff to grow the business. So the philosophy of character has got to change largely. And then as far as numbers and productivity, what we're looking as a business, how we can become more productive in everything that we do, is very, very serious, because if we're not, then like everyone, then the bottom line becomes a real challenge. So we're trying to look out of the box now on how we can improve things through production and through the restaurant, through crossover and continuity, and through not repeating jobs, and all these little elements that we're hoping is going to make us a slicker, but also a more organised and controlled business as well. Because sometimes I think when people are in a sort of a chaotic, busy environment is not conducive to long-term well-being.
Yeah, and especially for independents, I think with the increase in wages, which is needed, the cost of living is going up, but as a small independent, it's how do you absorb that cost without just constantly pushing it back onto the consumer? Otherwise the cost of living constantly goes up. It's just a vicious circle, isn't it? For us, it's trying to understand how we can become more efficient in our workplace, which not only gives more comfort to the staff because they feel it's a better environment to be working in, it's more enjoyable. We all know what it's like when you're at school and the substitute teacher comes. There's chaos, but after a couple of days you're wishing for that teacher to come around that's going to make sure everything's organised and in place. So it's trying to put all those systems in place to make sure that that's there, and also then the efficiency hopefully means that it's more organised output so that the staffing levels are right, because that's one of our biggest expenditures is labour, and it's trying to manage all of that. All these increases are coming on, and because when you are just an independent you feel it quite dramatically. And then obviously it's not just about the national living wage. If that goes up, then you've got to have that difference between those guys and the managers, otherwise everyone becomes unsafe. So you've got to, so it's for the whole team that you then get those increases. So it's trying to it is a bit of a juggling act of managing it all. The other side is that the consumers are eating out more. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, going out for dinner was a special occasion. Now my kids expect to go out at least once a week and eat out, and young people too, before it would be going to the pub and having something to drink, where now everyone goes out for dinner. It's much more part of our mindset.
You mentioned the consumer a couple of times. How do you see they are moving? Because how they move probably is quite important for you as an operator to see here. I mean, all this, there's less money to spend, but they will still go out.
For sure.
I agree with that.
And also they've all got a voice, haven't they? I mean, everybody has a voice now, and that voice can be positive and it can be very derogatory to your business. And the amount of 21-year-old foodies is incredible, and it's sure is a good thing, and you can be skeptical and say there's a lack of experience there, but it has to be a good thing for the industry. industry. All of these inspectors coming through the restaurant all the time is, we try and perceive it as a good thing as well, that to keep a consistent type business, if everybody's getting the same quality of service and food, then we're controlling a much better business model. I mean, we always kind of, since day one, try to peg ourselves with certain awards that's kind of a flag for quality and consistency, and we still do. But there's so much more outside around that now. Even us giving out the comment cards, which we do to all of our customers with the bill, it's a great feedback for us.
Yeah, you have to listen to your consumer.
The consumer's voice is just bigger than it's ever been. It really is.
Like Anna said, we give out comment cards. We look at TripAdvisor. Our reservation system encourages people to give reviews. You've got Google reviews. Everybody's got a voice, and it's really important to listen to them. And I think that's how you hopefully keep an understanding of what the market's doing and what your consumers want. And I'd like to think that another reason that we've been around for so long is that as much as we do believe in our product, we also are open-minded enough to listen to what people have to say.
Yeah, and a little bit healthily fearful as
yes,
well.
We're very healthily fearful.
I mean, I think, every time, all through the years, every time, the restaurant's a little bit quieter than it should be on a lunch day or whatever, both of us are chomping at the bit with concern. And, that's put us in good stead to keep on it, keep tweaking and tuning and staying fresh. And that's another massive factor. Never stand still, because all those good uns around you, the new people with fresh ideas, that they will just, come up and just surpass you, whereas we've kind of proved ourselves in Brighton that we've been here 10 years and we've been doing a good thing for 10 years. So through that, we've become an establishment, an institution, and something that's very trusted. So although there's a lot of young Mavericks and great restaurants that have come up over the last 10 years, we're always kind of on people's periphery, because, we're one of the Brighton establishments that people know is a good place to get some exciting food and a nice, enjoyable place.
But that is one of the challenges as well. I mean, the lifespan of a restaurant isn't usually 10 years, so to keep that energy and that vibrancy and keep moving forward we're very aware of it, and we've still got that energy, and that's what's keeping us going as well. I think you do have to see what's going on around you and see what's happening, but I think the industry itself is really exciting. All that, when people are opening, we never see it as a negative. Oh God, there's another restaurant opening. We love the thought that Brighton has moved forward so much now that you could come here and easily have a foodie weekend, and a great foodie weekend, and for us, and in Guilford where we are, there's a couple of places that close down. We can't wait for new places to move in, because it's going to give energy to the area. It's good to have that healthy competition and to be backing each other up. And we eat out a lot, and we enjoy dining out, and all of that it's got to be part of what it is.
And I guess also for the consumers now, it's become a bit of a hobby as well.
Yeah, 100%.
When I can remember, as you said, when I was a kid as well, and my mom and dad were restaurateurs as well, when I was taking out, it was like every 3 months or something like that, so you can eat what was left in the kitchen. But also, I guess when you're very known, liked and trusted in Brighton, and suddenly you move your business to Guilford where they don't know you.
Yes.
Has that been a bit of the journey as well, where you have been surprised?
I mean, we probably should have rewound 10 years in our heads a little bit more. There's definitely an awareness, out there, but just possibly not as much, I think, as far as Guilford's concerned. So we didn't quite hit the ground running as anticipated, and that was paired with a beautiful hot summer. I mean, it was a real, and the football, and then Indian food is unfortunately, not associated with lunchtime and a really hot day. But it just, a few things against us. We sort of dug in now, and we've dug in for the last 6 months, and then we've changed our PR. Our way we're doing things, and rather than a bit of a national level, we've kind of gone local, and we sort of really, got involved in the council or visit Guilford, and on a lot more on the streets, and to understand what Guilford's all about. We have a nice rapport with the local radio station, Peter Gordon, and it's just, I think we've kind of turned around and treated it like a new restaurant again, and through doing that, I think we've created a nice buzz about town, and now we're kind of more secured in the way that we're sitting there now.
Yeah, and that's another one of our lessons of understanding that it takes time. When I now remind myself of those first 6 months in Meeting House Lane, my God, it was so hard. There was a real emotional roller coaster, and this time has been a real emotional roller coaster. It's that, the fear and going, oh God, why are we not busy enough? And then, and making sure that we get that message out there of what we're about. And remembering as well that no matter how much you market and you do social media and you do all these different things, it's word of mouth. People trust their friends and their family. So there has to be an element of that waiting for people to come and eat and hopefully blow them away, and then they'll come and tell their friends, and that's how it grows. We're definitely feeling that incline now and feeling much more confident.
People talk a lot about, and consumers doing it right now, is delivery. They're ordering online. Before it was by phone, but I can remember, can't remember how many years ago, but I can remember I was down here visiting family and we got a delivery from you guys, and that was yourself. You did deliver yourself.
Sure.
Before Deliveroo days.
Yeah, you don't do that anymore. Is that correct? You moved away from that.
Yeah.
That would be quite interesting to hear your journey just shortly on delivery, because everybody's talking about it like this is the new golden recipe for saving your restaurant business. Sometimes
Deliveroo's definitely changed the playing field on all of that, and when we wanted to do delivery and do takeaway, there was the demand. People kept asking us, you're going to do it, and we were worried about it being detrimental to the restaurant. It was food that was still going to represent who we were, so we didn't want it to be a substandard product. So we put a lot of energy into it, a lot of thought. We designed the boxes. That was all from us, sitting down with a piece of paper and drawing ideas and trying to bring that element of, when you're travelling in India on the trains and how we would emulate that to be delivered. We got a website designed, we opened up, we were busier than we anticipated, and we had to keep shutting down the website because we couldn't cope. We then got a different website designed and did it like your online shopping, where you book time slots and you would book online. So that was a new thing that no one was doing at the time, apart from maybe delivery if they were in London where they were starting out. But it's very different. It's a different beast, to deal with delivery drivers. On a Friday night when it's a part-time job, that delivery driver will call up and say, I'm not coming into work today, my plans have changed. To them, it's because it's just that little part-time pocket money job. To us, it's like, oh God, a driver down on a Friday is a lot of money, because they would be taking all those orders out for you. So when it moved forward, and it was literally just the lease on our delivery cars had come up, and it was making a decision whether to do it again, and Deliveroo had just moved to Brighton, and they approached us, and it took the logistical side out of the business, which was the most challenging part of the takeaway. It needed to be managed quite closely. It was quite a difficult job. We're not logistics, and to work out postcodes and you can do these 3 orders because they're in the same cluster of areas, and we didn't have algorithms and all of these IT minds that could make it work and do it for you. It was just us literally with a map putting in the postcodes on Google Maps and working out the best way to do it.
We had four smart cars with front seat, side seat taken out, plus a pulled forward as well. So it was 5 cars, and we were doing 95 orders on a Friday, Saturday. We thought we'd well exceed that with Deliveroo. They said they could do however many we wanted, and fortunately it's never really exceeded that. I mean, we do an amazing business with Deliveroo, but I think for us to take away the like Dawn says, the logistics, it was just something that it's just so alien to the normal business, to our skills, that either we would have had to have got someone in very strong in that scent, or it would have just pulled us away from the business too much more in the long term.
And it's quite difficult to employ for. I mean, takeaway realistically is later in the week. Well, people have their habits, you have your Wednesday people, Wednesday's takeaway day or whatever, it's really for a 2-hour window. That's kind of when people want to eat, where we had to have permanent fixtures of employees even. So with Deliveroo, it meant that if we had those quiet nights, it didn't affect our labour costs. I wasn't suddenly saying, I don't want to send those guys home because they've only just come in, but it's not looking busy enough. And it was that juggle where the beauty of Deliveroo was, if we were quiet, we didn't need drivers, we didn't have to pay them. If we were busy, hopefully they had enough drivers that were working that could cope with the demand. So that was the biggest pull for us of using someone like Deliveroo, because they were able to have that amount of drivers because there's so many other restaurants that they were working for, so that they were constantly busy. They've changed as the time's gone by. There's been lots of people unhappy with them, and it's worked for us. It's made it less of a headache for us with the logistical side of it.
When we did do the delivery, though, I mean, again, I think we were pretty out there. I mean, it means, to create the grand thali box, kind of almost the ultimate TV dinner. You slide the box open, and it emulated everything from the king thali that you can have at the Chilli Pickle for lunch. so sort of 13 elements on your lap, absolutely Indian feast for one. And on the back of that, we created all sorts of really, really amazing PR for ourselves. I mean, we were, the British Curry Awards, we were 4 times national winners of best takeaway service. It's again, kind of as a business, I guess, trying to sweat your assets, trying to be as creative as possible in order to make a business out of it.
And still being the right voice for the restaurant. You talk about listening to your consumers. When you've got a customer in the restaurant, you get the vibe if they're not enjoying it, they're not too happy, you can sort of double check them if they don't look like they've eaten the food, make sure they're okay, and you can damage control and see what you can do. With the takeaway, the food is going to the customer and you're not there, you can't see them eating, you can't see how they're feeling about it. So to make sure that the product is of the standard that we feel happy with and that we're confident with was a long thought process for us. We didn't want the consumer to feel that we were just
it's a diluted chili pickle experience.
Absolutely. It had to feel like it was us. We're really proud of it, actually. I think you sometimes, when you're in the depths of it, you don't step back and look onwards. And when we do sometimes think like that, which is usually involved with a couple of glasses of red wine or whatever, and we're reminiscing about the days, I think, oh, blimey, that was quite... We never thought that would happen with that,
So you were actually early out on the casual dining scene, as I can hear, on thinking about delivery, because now that's a standard, and everybody's doing a delivery edition, kitchen, and so on.
Yeah.
So on your journey or in your life, who is your mentor you look up to, or it doesn't be one you need to talk with every day, but who's your hero? That's probably a better way of phrasing it. Who's your hero? Who were you looking at when you are running your restaurant business? Is it one from the industry, or is it a person from outside this industry?
I think now, I think probably we look to each other. I think, starting out as a young chef, what got me stimulated and excited, to enter the industry was kind of the old classic guard, the Roux brothers and, Nicole Landinis and Pierre Kaufmann and all of those, that's who got me into the industry in the first place. Some amazing experiences with Indian chefs and, particularly Vivek when I first started the idea and, the stint I did then at the Cinnamon Club. All so many chefs that I've worked overseas, sort of snippets that you've taken from different people and different experiences. But I think now is, there's not like that photograph that we'd go to look at and, see as that.
We've not got a shrine anyway. but I think maybe that is part of it, is because we're in this together.
Yeah.
The first person I will speak to with anything I'm not sure about is Alan, and the same for Al, with menu ideas. Although I'm not a chef, he'll run it past me, and we work together. But we also have elements of our job that we aren't together. Especially now we've got 2 places, and I'm not so industry led. I mean, I got into this game when I met Al, as we mentioned, and there's so many strong working mothers out there now that I think there's lots of people that I can get influence from, and especially the way the world is now with social media, you witness so many different people nowadays that you wouldn't have contact with, and you touch base with people, and I think there's so many great examples of people with good work ethics and managing the juggle and have a great ethos and have belief in what they do, and entrepreneurs, and there's lots of different people you can get out there with, and there's great people in the industry. You did the casual dining awards that we were at last week. Just for us, we love going to those kind of things because you meet people that you've not met before that are in the same game as you. I mean, the restaurant magazine, they do lots of conferences that we like to go to and listen to speakers, because you always get things from that. There's loads of people in the industry that you can look on to and go, oh yeah, there's someone doing something really great there.
So in the end of the podcast, we always ask for a good advice for somebody, either a manager or somebody that wants to go on the journey you guys is on. What is the best advice you can give if you only could give them one advice? So you can give 2 because you're 2 on the podcast, one each.
One of the things that we keep having to remind ourselves of as well is having that self-belief and trust in your judgment. I think sometimes your gut is telling you something and you try and not listen to it because you're probably a bit nervous about what you're hearing, but not, most of the time I think to myself, I should have just listen to myself. It's great to take on influence from other people, it's great to speak to people in the industry, and it's great to get words of wisdom, but at the end of the day you are living and breathing what you're doing, and it's got to be you, and it's got to be true to who you are, because otherwise people will definitely see through that. So for me, the biggest advice I would give anybody is to believe in yourself, because you're doing it.
Sure. And then to marry that, I'd say
Yin and yang.
and yeah, to pair that passion from the heart, I think, and being a little bit old school and running your own business is be prepared to work hard and for the long haul.
Yeah.
Because, hard work over a given period with some passion and flair will hopefully always shine through for you.
It's great words of wisdom, Al.
That was amazing advice, both of you. I'm very clear on it as well. So, Dawn and Al, thank you very much for coming on the podcast and inviting me down here in your restaurant. If you heard the bustle in the background, it was just after lunch. So
sorry about the doors slamming in.
Thanks for having us. Cheers.
But that brings the podcast to life. So, thank you very much,
Thank
and
you.
speak to you soon.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Thanks.
Wow. Thank you, Dawn and Alan, for your story, insight, and amazing advice. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please give us a like, review, share, or subscribe to one of our channels. Thanks to Let's Talk Video Production for your support. We hope you enjoyed today's Hospitality Mavericks podcast with me, Michael Tinkser. Tune in next time for another industry interview. And in the meantime, find out more about us at hospitalitymavericks.com. Thanks for listening, and be Maverick.